Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's June 9th, 2020, and today, this video, I'm going to try and cover three basic concepts. It starts off with me talking about what I consider essential pruning. Then I got a question from Jim asking when is it too late to prune, since it's June right now, fruit trees. And the third thing I want to cover is another walk through the first food forest. Not as extensive as the first walk through the first food forest, but the ground cover, like the comfrey and all, are just about ready to lose their first strength, and I'll go over that stuff in a few minutes. And the locust trees have all leafed out, and so the beautiful colors are there as well. But going over Jim's question, when is it too late to prune? My opinion is it's never too late to prune. And I'm always, whatever it is that I want to do, I always ask why. What's the objective? What's the utility? What's the mission that I want to accomplish? So I think it's really advisable when we're transplanting trees, or when we first purchase a bare root tree, or we get a tree from a nursery, we want to get it before it leaves out if at all possible. We want to prune it to stimulate growth. So that's a reason for pruning in the early spring, before the buds have leafed out. We want to stimulate root development to make it a healthier tree to start out with. Yes, it won't have as much foliage right off the bat the first season and all, but it's an investment in the future. So stimulation is the first reason for pruning as far as I'm concerned. The second reason for pruning is form, shape, the conformation of the tree. And we've talked about those things in other videos, but you know, it's for here, I really don't want any big limbs coming out in an access road. Going down between the various paths in the food forest, I don't want limbs hanging down where they're going to be hitting me in the head with the mower. I want to protect the trees from wind damage. So I want to make it so that many of the trees that are really vigorous fruiters, that it's easy to get at, so I can thin the fruit. It's easy enough to harvest the fruit. So having openness, having good ventilation through it. So the shape and form for the function of that tree is really important. So that's another reason to prune. And I'd say that we also want to make sure that we're pruning diseased and damaged, dysfunctional limbs as well. Besides those basics of stimulating or form and shape for the function, also trying to reduce reduce the chances of that tree being less resilient. Our goal is always getting the most resilient tree, even if at times it means that we won't get as much production this season. It's an investment in the future. So those are my thoughts about it. So when I pruned, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about now, I like to prune during the winter time, when the tree is actually dormant, for really doing radical pruning. On April 13th, I posted a video on pruning these apple trees here and one peach tree. And I radically stripped a lot of the wood away from that tree. Now, one of the big caveats to that is you have to anticipate that in this part of the country, the last week in May, first week in June, you need to be out there doing essential pruning, because when you prune a tree, especially your fruit and nut trees, if you prune them during the dormant season, during the winter months, when the leaves, after the leaves have all fallen, that stimulates vigorous vegetative growth the following spring. So we have lots of potential water sprouts. So water sprouts are those ones that shoot straight up. You might have suckers coming up from the roots as well. But you'll probably get lots of green, new fresh growth early in the spring. And sometimes just using a gloved hand and just rubbing off those buggers is a way of eliminating them. So if you can get out there early in the spring, look at each one of those new green stems that are coming out, that new production, and discuss with yourself or think about, is this new growth a desirable growth that I could see in the future? So everything that we're doing when we're looking at trees or food forests or gardens and all, we're always looking in the future for some time period. And in a garden, when you're first setting up the beds, you may be looking for years ahead. When you're setting up the bed just for that season, you're thinking about that season, easy enough to harvest. When you're thinking about a food forest, you're looking at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and 25 years. What's the shape and form? How am I going to manage it? How am I going to navigate through it? How attractive will it be? How easy will it be to get at it and do the things? And how little maintenance will be required? So I'm always looking at, when I do dormant pruning of fruit trees, I have to expect that early in the spring, before summer hits, we're going to have lots of vegetative growth, and that could be a real problem if I don't get to it. And that's where we get all these water sprouts. Sometimes you see these trees with all these vertical stems sticking up, and they really don't provide any function. They're decreasing airflow. They make it more difficult for you to get at the fruit. That more chance for wind damage, for those limbs to bang against each other as well. So being ready for that part, and that's what I'm going to put the helmet cam on. We'll go and take a look at some of that fruit, the pruning that needs to be done during the summertime. Like already, now it's spring still, June 9th, but the deer have already come through, reached up, and you've seen from some of the videos in the wintertime, the deer coming through, they get right up in their hind limbs, and they reach up and they grab a limb, and sometimes two deer will work together. Usually it's just one, and they'll grab that down and they'll break that limb. So I always have a few different types of pruners with me. So I have an anvil pruning tool that's ratcheted, so that I can get dead wood. That's dead wood I use that for only. Then I've got a big pair of bypass loppers that I use for cutting fresh wood, and then a living wood, and then I've got my bypass pruning shears as well. So I do prune during the summer months whenever there's damage, diseased limbs. I know that many people say don't prune during the summertime, or at least it used to be many people. And my thoughts are, if a limb gets damaged or there's disease, then we want to reduce the chances of the disease-making entry still going through the cambium layer, which is your circulatory system for the trees, and getting more of a systemic infection for those trees. So by catching the damage and the disease as early as possible, pruning it back to where the collar is on the tree, then there's less of a chance of a disease getting set up because of negligence, and a better chance for that to heal more properly as well. So being willing to do that pruning during the summer months. So when the vegetation is all out and you prune during the summer months, you won't have as pronounced of a vegetative flush the following spring. So I'm going to put the helmet cam on now, and we'll take it from there. So I just wanted to show you quickly these couple of pruners that I always carry with me in the back of Pepe, so when I'm working out here. So this is an anvil. It happens to be a ratcheted cutter, so I can gradually work my way down to do it, but it's a sharp blade that is sharpened on both sides, and it fits into a crevice or a solid steel end. So this is very good for pruning dead wood, and having a ratcheted one really works extremely well. And when these ones break, when they're made from Fiskar, they do replace the parts that are broken. I've had good luck with Fiskar. And I'll put a link to anything I describe in the description below, an Amazon affiliate link. But that's the one for pruning deadwood. Now I have several different bypass pruners. So as you can see, this is only sharpened on one side. Hopefully this camera's showing. This is only sharpened on one side, the blade here, and the blades are replaceable. And it passes by the non-cutting edge. So that's why this is called a bypass pruner. And this is a pretty darn good pruner. There's lots of them that are really good ones. The reason I get some of these Fiskar ones is because I have broken pruners in the past, and it's not fun to replace them. So here's a couple other bypass pruners as well. This is a really inexpensive one. I contacted the company where it broke right here on the first one that they sent me, and they immediately sent me out a replacement, and since then I bought 2 of them, so I always have 3 with me. This is a more expensive one. Yes, it's got a little rust on it. I disinfect them all the time. Keep them nice and sharp, each one of these. I don't know if you can see the edge on that. And hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll show you some of the sharpening tool that I use to keep everything sharp. It happens really quickly using these tools, using the sharpening tool. And that's how I sharpen my weeding tools as well. So this apple tree here, this is one of those Macintosh type trees, and this is all, and I already pruned some of this off, but this is all new vegetative growth starting all over the tree, and they can start at the base of the tree. They can start from the roots being a sucker, and they can certainly start every place. So right here, you can see where I pruned. There's going to be one right there, so you can just pop those off. You can see I pruned here, there's one coming off. But before you start pruning, one of the things I always look at is, all right, do I need another limb someplace? Is there something that's undesirable about the limb position here? And will this one, when it comes out, will that be more of a problem for what's existing, or will it be a beneficial limb? So those are things that I'm always looking at. I don't want anything shooting up straight. So that's what I'll do. Here's another one here. Don't want these ones. Just rub them off. Here we are right at a place where I pruned. Here we are at another place that I pruned. Now some of these, some people will go ahead and so I've done propagation videos, and not this one, but one a little bit bigger than this we'll show in a minute. But you could pinch off a few leaves and put these in a misting system and potentially propagate another tree from this. And I've got some that are going down. Hopefully you can see these here as well, each one of these. So I look around and you can see some of the fruit up there. There's some of the apples showing up. Here's another cluster of fruit here. A pinch. And I'll come out, hopefully I'll come out and can spend some time thinning some of this fruit so that the fruit is robust and healthy and all. So this limb looks pretty good now. I want to go right around the tree, each limb one at a time. And I'll only do this a couple of times. I have to keep remembering to readjust this. But you can see these are all new growth. Now potentially this one could be okay. So I'm going to leave that one for now. This one I don't want going vertical. I don't want this one. It'd be going back into the other limb. I don't want this one. Don't want this one. Now here are a couple here. So these would be water sprouts. These things here are all going to shoot straight up. So there's 2 there. Rub that one off. When they get a little bigger, sorry about the way the lighting is, I'm switching from side to side, but this is the time, and it can be real quick to do these things. Now again, if I wanted a limb going out there, it'd be just fine, but I've got enough limbs here. And you have to think about the structural integrity of the limb as well. So how is it going to handle the additional weight? And I don't want another one shooting out here when I've got this one. I don't know if you can see that. But here we have this limb here. This would come out right parallel to it, and then the side branches would bump into each other. So I don't want this one. I don't like the ones coming off the base, unless there are some circumstances that I would like it. If they're right next to a fruit that you want to keep and all, leave it for now, but this isn't in a bad spot. And I'll decide, hopefully hopefully I'll get some time in the future after I get some of my construction done where I can spend less time doing construction and spend more time. Okay. Again, right back to the growth rings there. And I don't want that one. Hoping these things are showing up. That would have been a fruit. Dang it. Okay. Now here's one. That would be a fruit for next year, but I don't like it where that limb is coming off. And I think I'll leave this tree for right now. Let's take a look at another one. So let's just look at this one. This one, I only took off one limb, and I have a lot more pruning to do on this one. But you don't see as much new vegetative growth going. But like right here, these two here are in an undesirable location. So, and it's too crowded. This is way too crowded. So I have a lot more pruning to do on this one. And I'm not going to go over that right now. This one I pruned the other day when I tried shooting some. And see right down here as well. So look for that vegetative growth. And I had gone through this already before, so you need to keep doing this. No. So I call this essential pruning mainly because, and you can see all of this, just imagine it, that it's all going to shoot right straight up, take a lot of the energy from the tree, take it away from producing the fruit, and ultimately what it's going to do is create something that I have to prune again in the future. So it's time to get rid of all of these. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see right there were 8 small ones. And it's super easy if you get out here early like I did before and got a lot of them. But it sends a lot of energy right into these. Don't want, this is going back towards the center. I'm going to leave this one now because I may be able to train that one. But here, don't want any of those. Don't want this one. I'm going to leave that one for right now. This one's heading right back towards this limb here. I'm going to prune that one later. There's some of those that are a little bit too big for me to want to prune just yet. So on some of these limbs that you prune, you can see, wow, there's just a ton of them. And I got to get my 3-legged ladder out here so I can see better. But hopefully you're getting the idea. And if you wanted to propagate some, what I recommend is I'd let it get to about this size here. So this, you want something that's about 3 inches long, take off the big leaves. And I may do a few like that to show you. I don't have a misting system set up this season. Again, this one's going to go right towards the other limb. We don't want that. Look how vertical that's going to be. Vertical, vertical. And these is so so this is one that you could potentially go ahead and so there's a leaf spot there, and I'd cut just below that. You could dip it in some rooting hormone and put it in some moist soilless mixture or sand, and then just keep misting this. And because it hasn't got the roots attached to the vascular system, hopefully this is showing up. I'm sorry I'm not using the camera correctly here. So it has to develop roots first, but it's going to lose moisture through transpiration. And but these leaves will send down the carbohydrates, and it'll stimulate root development down here, here, and here if we do this correctly. And at the end of the season, by next spring, you'd have a small little red delicious apple tree, potentially. And then you can graft multiple different types of trees onto that. So hopefully you've got an idea just how extensive the vegetative growth is as a result. Now this is the peach tree that I pruned, and this is one that was hit pretty badly by a deer, and the deer had his rack stuck right up on top of here, going between, and he broke off one limb on the other spot there. This is the one that I mentioned that I don't enjoy a lot. So you can see this limb is going back towards that. I've got a lot more pruning to do on it. This was like a water sprout going up here. All right, this one I already did a lot of pruning on. And you can see it's really getting really aggressive growth here. So this is a delicious green apple tree. So this would be an ideal one to go ahead and try and propagate. Cut off that nub there, trim off the leaves, and this could go into a misting system and hopefully get some root development. So I won't go through this one as well, but I did want to show you when we were here before, the comfrey and the horseradish were just barely out of the ground. Now what will happen with the comfrey, with this Bach 14 comfrey, it doesn't propagate by seed, so it's really easy to control, and it's so many benefits. So if you run out of toilet paper, you can use these leaves. They aren't as comfortable. I've used these in a pinch. These are really good for pollinators. These are known as dynamic accumulators. But what will happen, and the deer love these in the fall time. They don't eat them so much in the springtime, but in the fall they gobble them up. And you can see somebody probably took a bite out of this one. But these will come back 3 times. So these will start falling over this week. And there's a pokeweed. I don't want that one in there. They have tremendous roots, those do. And you can see I got a couple of suckers here. So I have to take, so this is a horseradish here, comfrey right in here, it's a gooseberry, but all of these will fall down. They'll try to send up like a lateral. Once these limbs first fall, what will happen is, let's see, are there any that, yes, here we are, here's some under this tree. So some of these comfrey, so this stem came out from the ground here, then it fell down, and it sort of bends up. That'll be that way for about a week. The flowers are already falling off, but within a week's time, the second shoot will start coming up, and this will happen 3 times. So there's lots of soil being produced as a result of the comfrey. That's why I have so much comfrey around here. Here with this apple tree, we got hostaberries, horseradish, lemon balm, weeds, more lemon balm, an ash tree I gotta pull, more hostaberry. These are lemon balm here. I never pulled off the last year's seed stem. So these will propagate all around here. There's little bits of lemon balm starting right out here. So really prolific trees in zone 5, plants, ground cover in zone 5A. What was the other thing I wanted to show a little bit of? So Tim, we had talked a little bit about some of the various locust trees that we have on the property. So this is the sunshine or golden locust tree. Really gorgeous foliage on this one. And that reminds me, I'll go over and show you the, excuse me, show you the black locust because the flowers are out now. And with all the wood chips, folks who are interested, there's always trees that are propagated when you're using lots of wood chips. And if you use compost below the wood chips, you're going to get some of the seeds from the trees at different times of the season. Boy, I really got to do some pruning here. That's terrible. This one here is this is a shade master here. So it's got that nice dappled shading that it gives us here in the sitting area. Really, really nice tree. I really like this. It doesn't block, it creates so much shade that you can't grow plants. This is one that we propagated here. I don't know what we're going to call this one. It's like a hybrid between two of our different types of locust trees. This is a golden locust here. Really nice foliage. And they're all over the place, the various locust trees that we've got here. So this is one of the hybrids that we've grown. Another one. The pawpaw's leafed out now, so that's pretty nice. I think one of the things that makes a food forest very interesting is not just having food producing or trees that we think of as being serving various functions. Some of the functions are visual appeal or for lumber as well. So this is a tulip tree. This is a variegated tulip. Let's see the variegations in this. This is another one of our hybrids that we grew here. That's a sassafras. I don't know if this was leafed out before. These really have really interesting leaf structure, like little finger gloves. These are ones that smell so delicious. Just want to go over and show you the black locust as well. So the fruit is all small on all our trees right now. Over here, now this can be a problem. So this is spearmint here. So this stuff, God, it smells real good. We've harvested so much of it. So we started it in one spot, now I've got it in multiple places. These are some of our Asian pears here. These are some of my favorite types of pears to eat. These are absolutely delicious. This variety and this variety. Conjour and Azure, I think, are the two names. This is the orange quince. Let's get over to the black locust flowers. Now, previously I talked about how my taste and sense of smell had almost completely disappeared. And but one of the things I love so much about having a good sense of smell is smelling these beautiful black locust flowers. So these are out right now. These are edible. And of course, I've talked before in previous videos just how beneficial they are. This is part of the living fence. And I'll go over in some of the living fence here. Now, unfortunately, the deer have been coming through and chopping off. So this is one of the elderberry plants. So they're every other one of these trees. So here's an elderberry, here's an elderberry. And I'll make a video soon on the living fences and how they're coming. And this is one of the living fences here. Okay, I hope this was somewhat helpful. I'll put a link in the description below for the pruners that I mentioned today. I think it's really good to have several different pruning devices, especially a couple of bypass pocket pruners, ones that you can put in your pocket. I have some that are ideal for really small, fine pruning, and then I have the ones that I showed you today. I hope this was helpful as far as explaining why I think some pruning in the springtime after doing dormant pruning, because there's such a flush of vegetative growth, and we want to send that energy not into these new limbs being developed, but sending it into the root structure and producing more fruit, producing the new spurs for future limbs, for the limbs that are developing at this time, so we can have more fruit 2-3 years from now as well. And I did want to show you some of the foliage on the locust trees that I talked about before, and certainly those beautiful flowers that are showing up now on the black locust trees. So I don't think it's a bad time at any time to prune, as long as you know what the function is, what's the utility, what's the goal. And certainly stimulation, so stimulating good root development, so you're investing in the future, the form, the shape of the tree to meet your needs, not be an obstacle for you to mow under or maintain or get up in and harvest fruit. More disease resistant by opening it up, letting the air flow through it, let it get good sunshine to all the leaves that are developing on the limbs, and certainly for fruit development as well. And also, it's never a bad time to remove disease, damage, or dysfunctional limbs as well. So, I hope this video was of value. If you thought it was, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and by all means, folks, stay healthy and take good care of yourselves. And plant some trees. Bye-bye now.